pasta. Now it's very important that when you take the pasta, you open it from... I'm just doing a cookery show for my YouTube channel that'll probably never get broadcast. The story that I wanted to share with you today has a number of origins and nationalities, but the version that I've chosen to tell you is Korean. And it's all about this little fella here. Sodium chloride, or as you kids like to call it, salt. Could you imagine what it would be like if the world didn't have salt? If salt was one of the rarest items out there. The seas were not salty. Salt was not put on fish and chips. This was the case a long, long time ago. And in this particular time, the seas were sweet. So sweet that young children would come down to the beaches with their snacks and their treats, and they would dip them into the sea to make them even tastier. So the question is, how did the sea go from sweet to salty? Well, to answer that, we have to hear the story about the magic millstone. Now, a millstone is two big pieces of stone that come together and they can grind flour and wheat. But this particular millstone was magic. And if you knew the magic words, it would grind for you whatever you wanted and whatever you asked for. So if I asked, magic millstone, please make for me a shoehorn, the stones would come together. They would rub like this, really, really fast, and then the shoehorn would appear. If I was to say, magic millstone, please make for me a sombrero. The sombrero would appear. Anything that you wished for would be granted. And this magic millstone belonged to a king. And the king had used the millstone to get all of the gold and silver that he needed and to make him rich and powerful. As you can imagine, he wanted to keep his millstone secret. So he only told those he trusted the most. And if anybody else found out about it, he would kill them instantly. Now, one of the king's right-hand men had a brother, and this brother was a mischievous man. In some respects, he was a thief. He stole from others to fulfill his own greed. He didn't steal from the rich to give to the poor. Oh no, he stole from the rich and the poor alike to give to himself. And when this man heard about the magic millstone, he wanted it for himself. So whenever it was brought up in conversation, he would question his brother to find out as much information as he could. But the brother was loyal to the king and also cared for his job. So he didn't tell his thief brother anything. One day, the thief brother decided to go down to the palace and find out some information for himself. Now, if this story was set in London today, and this thief was going down to Buckingham Palace, it would have been a very, very different journey. For you can't just walk through the doors and shake hands with the Queen. Oh no, there are guards to stop you and other forms of security. But in this particular time, in this particular land, there was very little security. In fact, the guards that were positioned by the doors were there for show more than anything. So the thief could come and ask the guards for a tour of the palace, and they would gladly agree. And that's what happened. The thief was shown the billiard room, the study, the library, the outhouse, the greenhouse, the red house, the rest room, the wine cellar, the kitchen. And in the middle of the tour, they went into the dining area. And the thief brother was given a meal with one of the rarest minerals around. It could only be found one place in the whole world. Salt. And this salt was taken from deep underground in Diorama, Germany. And when that man tasted it, oh, it was so fine. He wanted more. And the god gave him more, for he was a guest. And then they went out to the gardens, and when they were walking deep, deep out in the gardens, the thief brother turned to the guard and said, "It's all interesting what you've shown me so far, but I wondered if you could share me some information that only those who work at the palace know." "Well, I care quite a lot about my job, and security is a very important thing around here, so I won't be giving you any information you don't deserve to know." "Oh, it's quite sad to hear. You see, my brother is actually the right hand of the king. Very, very high up. And if I wanted any information, I could just go to him. But seeing as you're here, I thought it'd be easier to ask you." "Well, I do know a few things that perhaps your brother doesn't even know. For instance, does he know that the king has a magic millstone that he keeps under his bed in his bedroom? And if you say the words magic millstone, please make for me a whatever, it will come." "Oh, that's interesting," you say, a magic millstone. And anything, you can make anything with this, just by wishing for it?" "Oh, certainly. But don't tell anybody what I've told you. I shouldn't have really told you." "Oh, good. So stupid." But it was too late. The thief brother had the information he needed. You can imagine what happened next. He waited till he heard that the king was off in another country. And when night fell, he broke back into the palace. Because he'd already been on the tour, he knew exactly where he needed to go. He found himself in the king's bedroom, and there, under the bed, the magic millstone. And he'd even planned the next thing, for you see the palace was next to a river. So he got a boat ready to sail off to start his new life in a different country. He packed a few basic items, some bread and some water, but he knew that if he needed anything else, he'd just ask the millstone for it. So he snuck back out of the palace, got onto the boat and set sail for Morocco. As you can imagine, the journey from Korea to Morocco is a long one. And the man spent a long while sleeping. But when he woke, he found himself in the middle of the ocean. There was no land anywhere to be seen. And he woke dazed, lost, bored, and hungry. He took some of the bread that he had packed and he bit into it. It was stale, hard, and tasteless. But the man knew what he needed to do. Magic millstone, please make for me salt." And those two big round stones began turning around. And when they stopped, the man took out a single grain of salt, hardly bigger than his finger. He cursed the air and called again. Magic millstone, please make for me more salt. The two stones came together and they began spinning faster and faster, and when they stopped, double the amount was there. 2 little grains of salt. The man kicked the millstone and hurt his foot, and he cursed again, and he said, magic millstone, please make for me more salt, and keep making salt until I tell you to stop. That did it. The stones came together and they began spinning, and then salt began falling from all of the sides. The man was excited. He took his bread and he took the salt and he poured it on. Oh, it was divine. He enjoyed that bread so much he didn't notice the salt spilling out of the millstone. When he did, he took a bag and he began picking it up and putting it in the bag. Oh, okay, and that'll be enough. Stop! Magic millstone, please stop. But the millstone didn't stop. It kept spinning faster and faster, and more of the salt was coming out, so much that it was weighing down one side of the boat, and the man had to run to the other side to keep it balanced. Magic millstone, please stop making salt. Magic millstone, I've had enough salt. Magic millstone, no more salt, please. Any of the words that the man tried didn't work. The millstone just kept creating salt all over the place, and now it was getting so bad that the water was starting to fill into the boat. The man was starting to panic and curse the air again and kick the millstone. But nothing worked. The millstone never stopped spinning. At the same time, the king had returned from his journey, and he'd come to the palace and found the millstone gone. And he instantly ordered a search of the grounds and the palace to find it. And he called all his top aides and assistants and right-hand men and questioned each of them to find out if they knew anything about the missing millstone. And then, because he couldn't get any answers, he executed every single one of them without a trial, including the brother of the thief, the right-hand man of the king. Now, this story doesn't end well for anyone. Not for the king. Without the millstone, he couldn't create more gold and silver to keep the country happy. And they turned against him, and eventually he had to abdicate. Not for the thief. A search was never called for him, for he was never reported missing. He's somewhere in the water between Korea and Morocco. Perhaps his final thoughts as he was drowning was a reconciliation or a realization of the error of his ways. Perhaps not. The millstone was never found either. Although divers have looked for it, it's still churning out salt. People started noticing a change in the water. They couldn't explain what had caused it, but what they did know is it made fish taste nice. This story ends with 2 words. 2 words that if that man had said it, the millstone would have stopped spinning. The story ends like this. Thank you. So we're now at 200 degrees Celsius.